Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, whether on Facebook Live or after on our podcast or YouTube. I'm Emma Goldblatt, and I'm the program manager here at and I'm happy to introduce you to Aaron Cohen. So a little bit about Aaron is he's Senior Director of Advocacy at Farm Sanctuary, and he oversees policy, litigation, and scalable direct intervention programming to support more just, sustainable, plant-based food systems. Aaron brings more than a decade of food system transformation experience to Farm Sanctuary, working in previous roles in political, entrepreneurial, community-based consulting, and academic texts. He has also served as a Harvard Research Fellow, co-instructor at Duke University on well-being economics, and is the author of Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina's Healthy Food Policy 2021 Roadmap. So welcome, Aaron.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, we're so happy you could make it. So I guess I just wanted to start by asking you about your personal journey towards being an animal advocate.
Sure. And I've been working in food system transformation for over a decade, even before I came to Farm Sanctuary, but I'm actually relatively new as a professional farmed animal advocate. It's something where I always considered myself to be a kind and compassionate person, but I think it took me longer than a lot of my Farm Sanctuary teammates to realize that kindness and compassion needed to be extended to non-human beings as well as human beings. And so in many ways in my current role, I still consider myself a food system transformation advocate as well as a farmed animal advocate. It's just that we're advocating for a food system that doesn't have farmed animals, and that's also just for people and sustainable for our shared environment. And so I think what led me on to this path was a desire to see a food system that nourishes people without harm, and to extend that without harm caveat to all of our communities that inhibit our exist in our shared earth.
Absolutely. Last month I had on Cynthia von Schlichten, and she is general counsel for Farm Sanctuary, and she did tell us about Farm Sanctuary's mission and stuff. But can you tell us a little bit about what you do for Farm Sanctuary? And I also understand there's a campaign going on right now, and I'd love to hear how our community can get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you had on Cynthia, one of my favorite people here at Farm Sanctuary, and that's a high bar. But I think that what I do at Farm Sanctuary is set a strategic vision. So as Gene might say, we're going to meet folks where they are, right? We're going to work across movements. We're going to identify resources that are currently being underused or misused, and we're going to shift those resources away from factory farming and to support more just, sustainable, plant-based food system supply chains. And so we use policy, litigation, directly shifting resources as tools. And right now, a great example of that is an ongoing campaign to shift the Farm Bill. So the Farm Bill is this once every 5 years colossal piece of legislation. And yes, 85% of it is critical nutrition spending that 40 million families, so 40 million people in the United States absolutely need. But also it's a factory farm bailout. It's something that sets up the credit and direct to farmer payment and the conservation subsidies that says to factory farms, we're going to pay for you to expand. We're going to reward the millionaire landowners and billionaire investors and corporate consolidators. We're going to let you get as big as you want to get. And if you pollute, we're going to pay you to clean it up. That's the current farm bill system that we have. And so we're currently arguing, title by title across this big bill, how can we shift these resources to support farmed animals, people, and the planet? It's a good news, bad news kind of situation, right? The good news is we have so many different allies across farmer, worker, environment, health, community justice, animal-centered spaces who we can work with to improve the food system. But why do we have that amazing cross-movement network? It's because the food systems we've got right now work for nearly no one. And so to build food systems that work for everyone, people, animals, and the planet, we need y'all and everyone to get involved in whatever your capacity, whatever your walk of life, you're involved in, US food systems, and you can make it better individually by changing your food habits, but we can also do it collectively by working together, whether it's in our schools or in our local governments or with our employers, to make choices that are better for all of us, and to make purchasing choices that are better for all of us. So one way that you can get involved is to sign on to our Farm Bill reform, the Food and Farm Act, which Senior Manager of U.S. Government Affairs, Alexandra Bookus, did an amazing job co-introducing with Representative Blumenauer in a recent Capitol Hill event. You can sign on to that bill. You can also go to farmsanctuary.org/volunteer, and you can sign up for our community advocacy program. And you can get involved in a more ongoing basis to shift those resources and start making change in your community.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing about that. That seems like a really important thing going on right now that people can, directly take action on. So that's really good to know about. Well, the last question I have for you, Erin, is what changes do you think are most critical right now, and how can we best inspire people to move towards that?
Yeah, I think we really need to think critically about how we as animal-centered advocates and plant-based advocates can work together to build the good. We've been focused so much, and rightfully so, on the immense harms that the current system causes to farmed animals, people, and the planet. It's truly awful. But there's this question on the other side of how do we build food systems that are fully plant-based and that can nourish everyone and do so in a way that's symbiotic with our shared environment? And those are questions that haven't been solved yet. And in some ways, they can't be solved, right? A food system that nourishes everyone in that way hasn't existed at this scale. And that should be an exciting thing. We should be excited to be, as vegans, as part of this animal-centered movement, part of the solution. And the importance of this is really clear, right? If we think back to a New York Times 3-part series last year, the first 2 parts were on these awful harms caused by factory farming to farmed animals, to workers, to farmers, to our shared environment. But then the 3rd part of the series on the quote unquote solutions was, okay, let's all go eat insects. And setting aside the animal sentience harms associated with insects as a potential solution, it's not something that people see as a realistic, viable option for food system transformation. And so we need to get back to the idea that we can be working together to build the good for everybody. And that's going to be a shift that brings us more allies and that is able to move us to a system where politically we can say, stop that factory farm bailout that we're talking with the Farm Bill. We don't need it. We can nourish ourselves and our communities a different way, a better way, in a way that's better for everyone, animals, people, and the planet.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate your time and hearing about your journey. And yeah, it's been great. Also, thank you to everyone who has tuned in. We're currently accepting applications for our Campus Fellows program and applications for our 7th cohort of the Synagogue Vegan Challenge. We'll open April 24th. So if you'd like more information on that, you can check out our website, shamayim.us. Thank you for listening.